Everybody. I am Lauren Weinberg, the Becoming Coach. I am a psychologist turned coach specializing in empowerment and holistic well being.
Hi, and I'm Melanie McLeod. I'm a certified empowerment coach, and I specialize in entrepreneur success coaching. Welcome to Talking Transformation Live.
Where we will always have real talk in real time for real people. And that's you, and that's us.
Absolutely. So, welcome. So,
Well,
today, we try every week to just come up with the topics that we think are just things that we all kind of think about or we all struggle with in some ways. And so, Lauren, would you like to tell everyone what our topic is today?
absolutely. Today, we're going to talk about forgiveness. And that's a topic that gets right to the heart, right? It's one of those that sort of arrow straight to the heart.
Absolutely. And I tell you, one of the biggest things I think for all of us is who are we forgiving, first of all?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we always look at forgiveness as being an external thing. Someone did something to me, and now I need to forgive them or let them off the hook for what they did to me.
Yeah. And I think I feel like sometimes how we have like a balance sheet in our head and we weigh and measure and judge, right? And when we feel that we've been wronged, it cuts right to the core. And we look at that concept of forgiveness as somehow losing. That there's something to be lost. Like if you forgive somebody for a wrong that they did to you, that somehow you're giving something up. But I actually think that in a lot of ways, it's that act of forgiveness that allows you to gain.
100%. And I think that the minute that you are able to forgive, and when we talk about this forgiveness, we got to start with ourselves. Because many times, a lot of the anger and a lot of the feelings that we have in our bodies, it comes from stuffing. It comes from us not even forgiving ourselves for the things that we've done. Some of us are so good at beating ourselves up. I tell people sometimes you're walking down the street and your own footprint is right behind you because you're kicking yourself every day.
Yeah, totally. Whether I think they're tied up in each other, I really do. But whether you're stuck on this concept of forgiving someone else, or if you're carrying the burden of having to forgive yourself, right? Because we are very hard on ourselves. Like you're saying, we don't give ourselves that sort of moment of grace to say that we're doing the best we can in any minute. And sometimes we've done things that make us, we wish we hadn't. We truly wish we hadn't. And we carry that, or we had no choice, but we carry that guilt with us. So whether it's carrying a wrong that's been done to you or carrying guilt over something where you feel you may have done a wrong, it's a burden and it's a weight. And that weight gets inside of us and it weighs us down and it weighs down our whole life. It weighs down the way that we look at the world. It weighs down the way that we can interact with people. It really becomes a burden to have to carry around with you.
It absolutely does. And it's difficult. A lot of times people will say that, they want to have joy and peace and happiness and all of these things. But if you are carrying around so many things that you're blaming yourself for, and you have shame and you have guilt and you have anger and you have all of these things, you can't move forward until you can forgive yourself and release. It's important to be able to release all of those feelings. And if you don't forgive yourself, those feelings are going nowhere.
Well, whether you're talking about forgiving yourself or forgiving someone else, I think the mechanism is the same. One, you have to experience the feelings, allow them, acknowledge them because they're human and they're your feelings. Feelings are never wrong, they're yours. And you have to, as you love to say, Mel, you have to go through it to get to it. Like, this is one of those situations where you have to allow the feelings to come up. But then what? Then you have a choice. You can, let it go and acknowledge that this is life. Life has burdensome moments, life has difficult moments. And it's up to you, that the peace that you look for, that you're seeking. Like you said, you want to peace and joy. Everybody will say that they want that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're carrying this burden, again, whether it's something done to you or something you said, like you said, shame and guilt, I will tell you from like personal experience, that sense of shame will wake me up in the middle of the night more than even something that had been done to me. Um, and it's after you allow those feelings to come up, your choice then becomes to let them, to keep focusing on it, which keeps it growing bigger, right? Because that would, we think about, we bring about, right? Like, if you, what you stay focused on is what you're going to see in front of you, or to let it go, right? And it's not as simple as put it in a bubble and blow it away, but doing
No.
the work to allow it to lift off of you is what literally unburdens you. And it's a choice. It doesn't feel like it, but it is. It's a
And
choice.
sometimes you're right. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it's a choice because sometimes you're feeling, even unconsciously sometimes, to need the need to punish yourself or to punish the other person.
Yeah.
And if I forgive myself or if I forgive them, then I can't punish them for what they did. So the punishment is in the not forgiving. You deserve to not be forgiven. And so it's really being able to say, who are you hurting? You're hurting yourself.
Right. It's a false sense of satisfaction because you're the one carrying the weight. You're the one with the dagger in the heart, right? That's pain that you're feeling, or you're going to have pain from whatever may have happened anyway. But that continued sense of, I have to get retribution, that's like twisting that knife.
Yeah.
And the freedom that comes from letting go. And if we have anybody out there with us today, please, say hello. Please let us know that you're here. We would love to hear what you have to say about this topic. Have you experienced that sense of either being able to forgive someone else or yourself, or that sense of not being able to forgive? And
Yeah.
how has each of those maybe affected you?
Mm-hmm. It's really being able to ask yourself the question, why can't I forgive myself, or why can't I forgive that person for what they did? What is my motivation for holding on to this? Because everything we do, there's a payoff. And we don't always understand that we're getting some kind of a payoff for it. And what is it? And again, if it's, I need to punish this person, really, who are you punishing? Because if you can get past this, it's going to be more beneficial for you, because carrying that burden of having anger, shame, and guilt, and all of those things, it's a heavy load to carry around every day. And it's going to take its toll on you physically, emotionally, or spiritually. It's going to take its toll.
Completely. And it's so interesting that you brought this up, because, and we can have Melanie to thank for this great conversation today, because she said, let's talk about forgiveness this week. And it's so ironic because I just wrote my newsletter just a few days ago about what does it mean to give ourselves grace. And what I talked about in that is recognizing that we're always in the process of becoming. That's why I call myself the becoming coach, because we're all these like unfinished works. And in any moment, we're doing the best we can. And that's true for somebody else as well. That we have to know that even if our best is completely off the mark, even if somebody else did something horrendous, in that moment, that's the best they could do. That's the best you could do. And maybe the next moment, having that awareness, having that recognition, you could do better. But in that moment, it's the best you can do. So give yourself that grace. extend grace to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And judgments. One of the things that is we judge a lot about what people's motivation. They knew what they were doing. They did that on purpose. And it's wow. Sometimes we have to step back and we have to not judge because we don't really know. We that makes us feel better to be angry at the person because they knew what they were doing and they knew better. They just wanted to da 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 and they're this and they're that. I don't know how that serves us, but it definitely doesn't serve us in any way positive because it fuels all the negativity.
Yeah. Well, it does serve. And the truth is, and this one could be a little controversial, but I really do believe it's true. We get very used to taking the stance of being a victim in our lives. And it's somewhat easier to hang on to be that sense of being wronged than it is to allow those uncomfortable feelings and to move past them.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that in the sense that, whenever, I'm too hard on myself, I have to say, I'm not a victim here. I'm a human being. I make
Mhm.
mistakes and I
Mhm.
learn from them. I don't need to punish myself forever over it. I don't need to feel like it makes me anything other than human. I don't need to have fear of trying new things because what I did was messed up or what I said wasn't said the correct way. You have to step into your humanness.
Your humanness, yes. And I'm smiling, not because it's something to smile at necessarily in this topic, but you know, Kristen Neff talks. She's like the big researcher in the self-compassion literature, and that's like the first thing. It's like three steps, but the first is knowing that you have shared humanity. That everybody who's human goes through the same things, the same emotions, the same more or less kinds of experiences, and that's just being human. So knowing that, first of all, you're not alone. You're not the first to have experienced whatever it is that's going on. There are other people also who have experienced that. And like you're saying, it's just all part of the process. It's all part of that process of becoming the next best version of ourselves, right? You win or you learn. You don't lose. You win or you learn. And I like to say that the only lose that you can have in a situation is not learning from it. So if you think about, all right, so we talked about step one, feel the feelings, feel all the feels. To me, step two would be, what can you learn from the situation? And if
Mhm.
you think of everything that happens in your life as being done for you and not to you,
Yeah.
you can begin to really look at what those lessons are. Like, what is the universe giving you? What is the gift, the hidden gift in whatever that terrible, hurtful situation was?
And which road do you want to take? One
Mm,
goes up, one goes down. So I get to pick and choose whether I take the high road or whether I take the low road. And sometimes it's a lot harder to take the high road, but you can see so far when you're up here. And I think it's a much better place to be and it has a much better view.
has a much better view. I love that. I'm going to let that be the last word because I think that was just so beautifully said. It really was. Nice job.
So, if you watch this, we would love you to put comments in. If you're not here live, to please tell us your experiences and tell us a little bit about forgiveness and what does it mean for you and what are your struggles with being able to forgive others as well as forgiving yourself. But I think it needs to always start at home. If you can learn to forgive yourself, you can learn to forgive others.
So please drop a comment below, keep the conversation going. If you'd like, reach out to us at talkingtransformationlive@gmail.com, or you can reach either of us um, at our respective websites. Lasting Change Wellness or Coach U Solutions, we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So in the meantime, take care of yourself, and I hope to see you same time, same place next week with us talking Transformation Live. See
Be
ya.
well. Take good care.